Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Michael with the Real 1%, back at you guys live with my special guest today, Bart. How you doing today, brother?
I'm fabulous. How about yourself?
Hey, I can't complain, man. So I just want to say thanks for being here. And, we're coming at everyone live with another episode of Military to Civilian Transition Podcast. It's what I call the last assault, or even, the last mission brief, really, that may not be looked at it like that, just because it's a transition, but it is something that we need to take heed to, and ultimately grab the bull by its horns and just have a game plan to success, as I would say. If you don't mind, for the listeners, would you go ahead and give everyone a little bit of introduction about yourself, and then lead us up to the time? You could touch on anything in the military you want to, but ultimately get us to the time where you started thinking about getting out of the service, if you don't mind.
Okay. So, Bart Womack, Command Sergeant Major, retired in the United States Army. I spent 29 and a half years, and great times. Most of them, probably one of the few people that can say that they served in the military. In every place that I went to, I asked to go there. So
Okay.
very, very lucky and fortunate to have gone exactly where I wanted to each and every time from an assignment. So that's pretty rare. A lot of people get sent places that they don't want to go to. I had the
Yeah.
complete opposite every time. Um, Retired in 2006. I knew that time was coming up. So last few jobs I had was coming out of the 1st Brigade Combat Team. Sergeant Major moved to the NCO Academy, and while I was at the NCO Academy, um, was the interim division sergeant major, and then I didn't get selected for that job long term. So that was the time for me. I was the last one to put my name on the slate, for the job because I wasn't sure um, how much longer I wanted to stay in the military. There were other things that I wanted to do, and um, God probably knew that, and those other things were more important at the time versus staying in the army for, a few more terms. I would have been a 35-year guy and all that, and so by not being selected long term for that position, it didn't matter. That was more of
Right.
a blessing for me to be able to go in and do the thing that I wanted to do. So it was at that time that I knew instantly that wasn't going to happen, that I was going to be getting out.
Okay.
Um, so I was ready for that. And I had trained in what I wanted to do a couple of years prior, a few years prior to getting out. And so I knew what I was going to do. When someone made my mind up of that, I started training in it way ahead of time. And then when the time came to get out, I went straight to that, which was work in the entertainment industry as an actor and military technical advisor. So I was taking classes in Nashville, acting classes and all that. Um, Again, so when that time came, just went loaded up the truck and moved close to Beverly, like literally a mile and a half down the street from Beverly Hills. So
Okay.
uh, those who remember the Beverly Hillbillies always say, I loaded up the truck and moved close to Beverly. So um, jumped right into that industry. I was there a few days. I got to go on set immediately and meet a producer of a show. And
uh,
then the next week I was working on the show in background, and things just launched, from there. A few weeks later, I was into technical advising, my first thing, which was an episode on a television show called Crossing Jordan, and
okay.
things just grew from there. So it happened really, really fast. But from a transition standpoint, I knew that that's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And again, started training at that 3 years before I even got out of the military.
Okay, so I got a couple questions, so let's rewind a little bit. Did you think you were going to do 29 years in the Army when you joined? Or did you think you're just going to do a couple and get out? What did you think you were going to do when you first signed?
Well, um, I thought I was going to get out of the military and work for the government and the post office.
Okay.
Don't ask me why that, but that's what I thought it was going to be. and you had to take a test for that.
Right.
And you had to take the test in the area where you were going to work, at least back in those days. So I couldn't, this is long before cell phones and, instant communication, all those type of things, but I couldn't seem to make it back to the area I wanted to work, which is where I was from, Columbus, Ohio. I couldn't seem to make it back there at the time of these tests. So that first term, came and went, and then I re-enlisted. Then I was trying the same thing at the end of that. I think the first term was 4 years, and maybe the next one was 3. So, but I still couldn't make it back. So by that time, I had I decided to do different things in the military, become a drill sergeant and all those types of things. So I was locked in. Um,
Yeah.
but even about the 9 year, 10 year mark, I had I guess it was 9 year. Um, I had a company commander just was not stellar. Not just in my opinion. I brought, my platoon in, my that company in, they would agree to the same.
Right.
But sometimes, what you perceive to be a bad example, and that's what I thought what that guy was just a bad example, horrible example of leadership, in my opinion, um, ended up being a lesson. So when you look at those things, you try to figure out, okay, what can I take away from this? Good, bad, right, or wrong. You put all those in your leadership kit bag, and then you drive on. Some of those things down the road you don't do because they weren't that good, and the things that were good, those are things you try to do from your leadership perspective.
Right.
Um, but what I got from that was, this guy was a ranger, and if that guy can do it, then I can do it. So that ended up being a takeaway. Just horrible leader, poor example in my opinion. But my takeaway was, a challenge, I guess, to myself. If that guy can do it, shit. Not only can anybody do it, but I can do it.
Yeah.
So that became the thing, and that I would say, shaped my career to be able to, go to Ranger School and complete that, and all those things of what it really is from a leadership perspective, and those arduous conditions and all that stuff. So, but that's what happens. I think from a leadership perspective, you are always displaying something. You're always say always. I think there's going to be some examples set, good, bad, right, or wrong. And it's up to us as subordinates, no matter what level we are, to take away something. And that was my takeaway. So that takeaway really shaped my career, and then got me into okay, this is going to be long term, because at the time I was ready to get out. I was like, if this is
Yeah.
what the army going to be about, it was surviving that that company, surviving in that company under
Mm.
that leadership. It was that bad to me, to where I think I'm going to get out.
Uh,
The
I was
commanders
there,
change.
man. Yeah, I was there before too. Maybe not as high. Yeah,
Mm,
I understand you. I think I went the other way, and I was
mm,
like, I had 2 bad experiences in a row, and I was like at 2 different duty stations. I was like, man, this isn't really good. But you're right,
mm.
absolutely right. The people can make or break it, and just that was like
Yeah.
one, not even a bad apple, whatever you want to call it. But think about how
Mm,
cancerous that is to all the people surrounded, and in a position like a company commander or first sergeant being it so influential. It's different if you got a nuisance soldier. I mean, it's really not, because one, it's bad apple, bad apple. But no, that's interesting perspective on your take.
and I had it was a really good first sergeant, and I think that's what kept things together, and that was probably um, another lesson, just to to stay in. But like I said, commanders changed, and he changed out, and someone else came in, and I got another opportunity. I left that company. I went to the Tomb Unknown Soldier as relief commander. So I kind of got out from under that, and then everything changed after that. Once you go down there and serve and understand, what that's about, and its effect on the army and society. A lot of things changed after that. So.
Okay, so it's pretty much it. But did the time go? But what was the hardest thing that you had to deal with while you were in the military? When you look back on all your duties, all your trials and tribulations, what's one thing that sticks out to you?
Hardest. Wow. Let me think about that one a minute. I mean, I embrace the challenge. So I don't know that I looked at things as something being hard. It was an opportunity to um, challenge decision making and what are you going to do and courses of action, all those types of things versus just being, something being hard. You figure it out. You use leadership to do that. You influence people to do those things. You rely on them and their perspective and all those things. So that's a tough one. Where I mean, especially if I couldn't figure it out. So um, if there was one thing, I guess that was hard, it is when we were deployed to Kuwait, across the border into Iraq, and then the um, terrorist attack happened. The insider threat terrorist attack happened, and and how it unfolded in the beginning, where in searching for the attackers, we thought were insurgents. I won't say hard, but a challenge that I had never faced, where uh, you're being attacked with small arms and grenades, and you don't know where it's coming from. And sorry, something popped up on my screen here.
You're good.
Um, and from my position, my foxhole at that particular time, and as things were happening, um, again, I've been able to find an enemy and no signs of them. So that was different. I don't say hard, but that was definitely different. When we do all this training, we train the squads and companies and teams and all these types of things. But in initial parts of trying to find out who did this or where these insurgents are, we wouldn't look for one person at the time, where these insurgents are, and not finding anything. And in the earlier parts, dark, and there wasn't a lot of people outside of their tents at the time that I could gather and like even form up, a team, if you will, to do the search. So I was just kind of by myself for a little while. And so that was different. I won't say hard, but that was different because we don't fight, by ourselves. So I
Yeah.
knew even though it was going very, very fast, but probably slow at the same time, um, and having to go through that. Um, Even for a few minutes. I don't know how, I can't remember how long it was. It felt like it felt like a long time.
Yeah, I
I'm
can
not
only
coming
imagine.
up with anything. I'm trying to do all these different things, by myself for a little while. Maybe it's 5 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so that was probably a challenge that I had never faced before. I never gone up against an enemy that's trying to kill us, and
Yeah.
I had to do it by myself. So that was a little different.
Wow. Yeah. That's definitely something that you're not going to experience unless you're in that scenario over there. So, is that the same thing that you had? That you wrote up something about,
Yeah, yeah.
and
So
that was your own experience. Yeah. I was reading up
it,
on
it
that. I was
was,
just I didn't go ahead.
yeah, I was telling a story, but I mean, I interviewed all those characters in the book as well. So it's not just my story.
Yeah.
It's told from my point of view, but their point of view as well. The things that they, all their actions and movements. I interviewed them, so everything that's written in there is what they told me in the interview.
Yeah. What's the name of the book that they could, if for everyone?
Yeah, embedded enemy, the insider threat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that, man. I didn't want to. I don't want to really dig up anything if you don't want to talk about it. But no,
Oh, I'm
that's
I'm 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 fine.
you're good. Okay. Yeah. All right.
I'm
Well,
good
no,
on that.
no,
Yeah.
you're good.
And
You're still here now, man. So you're good.
yeah, it's a cleansing thing to talk about it versus suppress it. Now,
okay.
some people are
Yeah.
completely different, where will trigger something if they're bringing up. For me, it's the opposite. That I've always wanted to talk about it. I wanted people to know, and that's why I wrote the book. But it's also one of those things. I get to get it I get to release it, from inside of me every single time that I talk about it. So you're living it every day. It comes up every day. Um,
Absolutely.
so to be able to um, express what I want to express about it regularly is actually therapy versus trying to suppress it. So I'm good with it. I understand, some people are different.
Okay. All right. Now, cool. That's a good take on that as well. So, all right. Well, do you want to talk any more about that? Really, do you have anything to say, or you think we could just keep going? It's up to you, though.
Um, as I mentioned, I wrote the book because, well, maybe I didn't mention that. I wrote it because people didn't know about the story. So this happened in the early parts of us getting to Kuwait. I said the latter parts of it getting to Kuwait, but the early parts right before we went across the border to go into Iraq. On that same day, so this happens about 1 a.m. in the morning, 01-ish. And on that same day was when the Jessica Lynch convoy was, attacking Commandeer. So that stole the headlines. Um,
Wow. That's
Miss female POW, at least in a while, and all those types of things stole the headlines of everything. We have missing soldiers and all that type of stuff, where that was, reporters knew about that. They knew this attack had happened. They're learning that who the attacker is, but they don't know much else. Don't know motive, don't know anything, and the investigation still needs to happen. So the Jessica Lynch, um, her being captured, took the headlines. There was more they knew about that than they did about this attack. So if you didn't know that happened in the beginning, after that you had to watch internet blogs to be able to keep up, if in fact anything was being put out. So
wow.
in knowing this, even though we cross the border and go to Iraq, the war happens, we come back and all those type of things, still no one, it was almost like a blurb in history, you know.
Hmm.
Trial hadn't happened yet. That took 2 years after the attack. So I just started writing and, little paragraphs here, notes here, and all this type of stuff until I eventually began to, write the book some years later. It wasn't until over 10 years after it happened that the book was published. So again, I wanted society to know that this thing happened. And in writing the book, I began to follow these stories that were domestic terrorism type events, and that became the plug in why the book should be written, and for society to pay attention to it. That if this can happen inside the close knit brotherhood of the armed forces, then it can happen in any campus, community, or organization at any time and anywhere. Now, keep in mind at this time, these school shootings and campus shootings and organization shootings and all these types of things, they were not prevalent
Yeah.
like they are now. So I guess I was a bit forward thinking, and that this is a problem. You have to write what's called a book proposal. And I put in the book proposal that if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting. So now we have a domestic terrorist inside the military ranks. Um, if it happened once, it can happen again. Now, I wasn't predicting, and I said that in 2008 when I wrote the book proposal. I wasn't predicting it or wishing for it to happen or manifesting it that it would happen. It was just inevitable that if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting. If it happened once, it can happen again unless we're doing something to mitigate it. And
Right.
we weren't mitigated, so it happened again at Fort Hood. Eyes opened up a little bit then because it happened on U.S. soil on a United States military installation versus overseas in Kuwait. Same
Hmm.
thing, no
Yeah.
different. Just U.S. soil, people paying attention. um, and wasn't running around saying I told you so, but kind of sort of.
Yeah.
It was inevitable. And fast forward today, it's still happening. I think in January, the month of January 2021, there was a soldier at Fort Stewart that was going to blow up the 911 memorial. But these people, all of them, they aren't trained professionals in the acts that they're carrying out. Yeah, they served in the military. We done some training, gave some training, all that type of stuff, but not they're not trained terrorists.
Right.
Not these. So my point is, they will make mistakes. You just have to pay attention. You have to watch people. And I put these things in the book. I call them strategies. One is, don't trust anyone. Trust is important, but people do it differently. But after someone who had took the same oath I did and raised their hand and all those things, and a part of that brotherhood, literally shoots you in the back. One of our guys was shot point blank in the back. Yeah, trust is different for me.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
Nice. It's completely different. So, but it's still one of those things that society needs to understand. How do you trust? Know your neighbors. If you know people, the chances of this happening, it may not happen if you really know, your neighbor, where we don't. So anyway, there's several strategies in there to try to mitigate some of these things. So that's what I wanted society to have a takeaway from this. Again, if it happened inside that close-knit brotherhood, it can happen again, and now we see it routinely.
Okay, I was gonna say, I would say everyone that's listening, go get Bart's book. I'm definitely gonna get it. I was gonna ask. I don't even know if I want to ask for a spoiler, man. I think everyone should just go out and read the story from your take, man. You know what I mean? So, but
yeah, I like that. I won't give any spoilers.
yeah, man, don't give a spoiler on that. You already gave enough, so let's leave it at that. I got plenty of questions, but I'm gonna get your book and read it, and then I'm gonna come with you at questions later, probably for a follow-up or something like that. We'll give some people some time to read. But all right, cool. Thank you for sharing that, man. Being vulnerable and it's cool. I guess it was kind of awkward for me because I don't ever want to pry at somebody and have you feel uncomfortable because we know each other from the military, but like you don't know me from nothing. I don't know you, but it's like I'm not trying to be that guy that just get on here and make people feel like that. So that's all. That's the reason I guess I was like walking on eggshells essentially.
Oh no, I appreciate you asking. I think that's the right thing to do. Like I said, people are in different places in their life, and they have different feelings and views and all those types of things. Like I said, for me, it's therapy to talk about it.
No problem.
And
All right, too easy.
Everything is very, very clear in my mind all the time. So
okay, too easy. Appreciate it. All right, well. So did you start going to the acting school and stuff like that in Nashville on your own dime, or were you using a tuition assistance from the Army?
well, on my own dime.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know if it was available for that back in those days, to be honest with you. No,
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you knew you wanted to. You already had so pretty much essentially you already had your game plan at least 3 years out. You were going to school. You figured you knew exactly sort of what you wanted to do when you got out, which I think is essential. And I mean, I had a job lined up sort of just to speak on my thing, but I mean, a job is only one thing. Then it was out of state. Then I ended up having my girlfriend pregnant at the time. So that all crumbled. So, so you want to speak on the importance of just like your plan on getting out or, like you've probably seen tons of soldiers get out the military before you and obviously after, and, you want to just touch on any of that, having a plan and just what yours kind of looked like essentially.
Yeah, but at the time I started acting school in Nashville, I didn't know when I was getting out. It wasn't like, okay, I may be getting out in a few years, but I did not know. And I started going to acting school before we even went to Iraq. So it was after 9/11, but it was before we went to Iraq. So, and how I got into that was my son. We were stationed in Korea, and he was he auditioned. Okay, he auditioned. He was 2.5. he got picked for a grocery store commercial in Hawaii, and he got $250 for whatever he did. And we framed the check and all that, and then I left Hawaii, and I was married at the time, and the Army sent me to the Florida Ranger camp, and my wife at the time, her company sent her to LA. So she just continued to keep him in the acting stuff. So when I would come out from breaks and all that, my job was to drive him all around LA on auditions. So I just said, this is what I'm going to do when I get out. So it's 1996. I said, this is what I'm going to do when I get out. So mind you, I don't get out for another 10 years, but at least I could answer the question when people say, what are you going to do when you get out? When are you going to retire? There you go. I'm being an actor. So, and people thought that was a crazy transition. Oh, like that's two opposites. How are you going to do that? So that's what they thought. Anyway, I just stuck to it, So it's still another 6 years before I got into this, acting class. But I just stuck to it in my mind that that's what I was going to do. So I just started pursuing that and, um, doing my homework and research and all those types of things. But started training myself, just like we do when you raise your hand, you come in, first thing you do after that, you're trained. So
Absolutely.
I just didn't go out there and walk down the street and someone said, hey, I like your face. We're going to put you in this movie. It actually didn't work like that. So yeah, so I immediately trained myself, and that was what it took. So I got a few parts, locally there in Nashville, so that gave me the experience of going on auditions and gutting that out, really get picked, not picked. Okay, next, don't take it personal, and all that type of stuff. So when it came time to get out and set everything up out there, I didn't feel like this is going to be strange, it's going to be hard or anything like that. I had done all the things I needed to do it and continued to do that. So even when I was starting off, I had some early success, but then I still got into acting classes to continue to train myself. Just like when in the military, like you said, you went to WLC. Well, there we go. You came in, you got trained once, you continue to go to the field and get trained, for example. But now you go into these schools, it's the same thing. You got to be
Right.
ready in your craft, no matter what it is.
Yeah, you're
So I was
absolutely.
fortunate. I was fortunate to, I guess, find that, but it all was predicated on my son, and where he was in life as a 5-year-old, and we're taking him all around town for auditions. And now he's a stunt guy in Hollywood.
I was gonna say, is he still in? I was gonna ask you.
Yeah.
He's still
Well,
a
yeah,
stunt
he
guy, man.
is.
Evil Knievel, man.
So he's been in some big. He's been in Emancipation with Will Smith. He was in I think it's called Birds of Prey. He was in the last, so Black Panther 2.
Okay.
Yeah, he's done some pretty cool stuff.
Man, so he's been at it since 2, man. Been making it since 2. Not bad.
Well, he
Not
didn't
bad.
stay with it all that time. He kind of came back to it,
Came back.
years. Yeah. So I guess if you know what you want to do and start pursuing that early, that's probably the best thing. What I see in working in the space of veteran employment and training and all those types of things is most people don't know what they want to do. And rightfully so, they don't know because we've taught them everything under the sun. We've trained them and we put them in a specific job and role with certain duties and responsibilities and all those types of things. But as you know, in the military, we may professionally train you in one thing, but then we teach you a whole bunch of other things, or we put you in this environment with a whole bunch of resources or no resources and have you figure it out. So in the end, no matter when you decide to get out, you know how to do a whole bunch of stuff. And you're
Yeah.
confused when you get out because you come out here like, well, I know how to do a whole bunch of stuff. So,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Well, America didn't work like that. You need to be very specific. So people need to kind of just, be in not 3 lanes, but maybe 3 jobs that they want to do.
Yeah. Narrow it down. You're right.
You have to narrow it down. And then you still only
Absolutely.
want to pick one. You can't go into interviews so I can do anything what you got. Okay,
Nah.
maybe you can do some of that stuff, but realistically, you can't do it all. So, but what can you do very well? And then now you have to convince this would-be employer that you can do it well, in an interview. So from this piece of paper and then the words that come out of your mouth. But it starts with that piece of paper. They have to look at that and look at what you have on there and see if it aligns with this job that they have,
Yeah,
and you demonstrate that you can do it. Now, sometimes you need to be really good at it. Depends on the level of job that you're applying for and the level that you want to get to. But there has to be some potential and some demonstration that you know what you're going to be doing in this role.
absolutely.
So it's tough to come out from wherever people are, and you want to make a certain amount. Sometimes what you need. That's important. You know what you need, but to think that everyone's going to come out and make high six figures right off the bat is just not realistic. So that people have to get off of that. And you may have to take something that doesn't pay as much or whatever, figure out where you're going to get the rest of that money from, and where there's room for you to move up, as opposed to jumping that thing that already has its limit from the very beginning. So there's just a lot of education on transition, but most importantly, you have to decide what you want to do. You need to get it down to 3, and you need to start early.
Yeah, because the time goes by fast. I mean, even looking back on it, I had about like 11 months at Fort Carson, and that time went by in the nick of eye, and then you're out, and just a couple of things that stuck out. What you were saying was a couple of things. One is you got to have your paperwork in order, have your finances in order, because that's going to go a long way, and have your medical records and stuff so you can do your VA before you get out the service, because that stuff could help out. You think you might not make the high six figures off the beginning when you get out, but if you do have, like, say you got your retirement in order, okay, that's one thing. You got income coming in, or maybe you didn't have retirement, maybe you got your disability, but it takes time, and you got to be proactive rather than don't be like me and be reactive and wait till you get out here on your butt and be like, yo, okay, well, I think I'm gonna start doing this now. Like, nah, I should have had the foresight, but I didn't have the mentorship or guidance. So I can't blame anyone else except myself, because no one's coming to save us at the end of the day. So it's really up to ourselves to do the due diligence and educate ourselves on what's out there and try to get with people. Like, I guess it's different. I guess being a command sergeant major, like, did you have people around you that are getting out and saying, hey, sergeant major, hey Bart, hey, make sure you do this, make sure you got this in order? Because I mean, you're in the service for a long time, so I'm sure you've had, like you said, good and bad. You've always had good everywhere you went. Like, did you have anyone showing you along the way, like, what to do? It's a lot of questions in one, I guess, but it's like, also, like, what sick call look like for you? I mean, honestly, that wasn't something that was always it has its own stigma, at least, from when I was in. I don't know if it was the same for you. Just could you talk a little bit about on that, those things like that?
Well, to answer your question about, I guess, a mentor, someone telling me that, the answer is no. And I guess if they had said something, well, since I didn't have them, it's hard to know what they would have said, but
True.
it would have been along the lines of maybe some of what I shared with you, but because I knew what I was going to do, it was completely different. So, transition assistance program, I forget what it was called in those days, but that was nothing.
Yeah.
You can even hold, a candle to what it's like today.
Yeah.
Not even close. It was almost it's really just like paperwork to get out, like nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Maybe there was some resume, something. Maybe that's something I remember. But I wasn't going down that path. I didn't need a resume.
Right.
So, I'll just say I didn't pay attention to that part. But it was only a resume.
Yeah.
Nothing like it is now. So that's one thing. And no mentor, but it was different because I knew what I was doing and what path I was going. And no one I knew could speak to anything like that. So you do go through, you bring in your medical records and you have a VA person review that, and that was on the installation at that time. But it's nothing like it is now. So even that guy was a retired sergeant major, but he did no schooling.
Oh man.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So nothing like it is now. so I knew nothing about it. That whole process and everything. So, um, and what you need to have and go back in all your medical records for every single thing. You know what I mean? So,
Absolutely. So how'd you
and
learn? Just going through it after talking to the sergeant major, what happened?
well after I got out.
Damn. That's
Well after.
crazy though, man. That's so that's wild. I believe it 100%. You're right. It's nothing like it is today. But like, how'd you even find out what you do?
Just okay, some friends that had gotten out
Yeah.
in more recent times,
Okay.
and you're just following stuff on LinkedIn or you're following stuff on whatever, where it
Yeah.
began, where it was talked about more and more, and what the process was.
Okay.
So I learned the process way, way, way late. Where now, people know the process while they're still in, and
Right.
start working that a year out. Definitely having it all
Absolutely,
in
man.
6 month mark. Oh, I didn't. No one told me that.
Yeah.
Didn't
Same.
know
Same. I didn't know nothing about it, man.
yeah. So, in my opinion, it's incumbent upon leadership to do that. It should be that leadership should still be there as it is from day one all the way to the last day. And
Yes,
all those
sir.
things. You want to make me, the best that I could be when I first came in. That should last all the way to the end and make me the best that I can be as I'm getting out, so I can contribute to society. I used to
Absolutely,
tell
man.
soldiers that we used to have what we call an ETS PCS breakfast. So everyone in the command that was leaving, we met with, and
Okay.
obviously once PCS and is going to a new duty assignment, the ones getting out, I would always tell them that um, hopefully this time that you spend in the military, whether it was 3 years, 6 years, retiring or whatever, that we did right by you as leaders, no matter how many units they had been in and all those types of things. This is the one they're getting out of now, that we did right by you. And if we didn't, if leadership failed you, then I apologize. Not that it was my personal individual leadership one-on-one with them, but as the senior enlisted person in the command, I need to apologize if you had, substandard leadership.
Yeah.
And I didn't do my job um, with those leaders of theirs. And I worked hard at doing my job with their leaders. So, but I'm not everywhere. I can't be everywhere to see what's going on, what's said, and all those types of things. But where I could, I wanted to make sure that they were being treated the right way. But again, I apologize to them if they didn't. And I wanted them to go out and be producers of success in our society. And if the whole model of the military discipline, all the traits and principles of all those things weren't embedded in them fully at that point of getting out, I would tell them that that's going to kick in, a year from now, 2 years from now. The light may come. It may take you 5 years. Where you begin to embrace all those things and start implementing those things, in your daily life and where you work and all that type of stuff. The light's going to come on and be like, oh, this is what it looks like. Because you're going to see a complete opposite outside the military and where you work and how you operate and the things that they do. And the light's going to come on and say, oh, when I didn't like it and thought that was jacked up, this is really jacked up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've all
for
seen
real,
that.
man.
Yeah, we've all seen that. So, but that's the light coming on, and embracing, like I said, those leadership principles and traits and all those things. So,
Oh, appreciate you sharing that. That's interesting to think that. Yeah, you like hate it when everything's disciplined in the military.
right,
Oh man, why are we doing all this? And you get out and you're like, man, people don't even want to move a muscle. It's like this is I did it myself. I had like, man, I must have had at least 10 jobs in the first like year or two after I got out, like food service. just food service and like, man, no one cares. And the kitchens, like, I can't be a part of this. People talk shit about the military all they want, but like, we only get X amount of product. We can only do so much stuff with it. Like, cause I was a cook, right? So, and I love cooking, and I think it's a great thing if you love it, just like anything else. Do what you love, right? So that's cool. But you know, like, man, you get out and you really see like, wow, I mean, even the people that weren't, you thought, squared away, like they probably got more squared away than people out here on the other side of the spectrum sometimes. So it's an interesting thing to put in perspective. So well, after you get out the military and you started doing your acting, what was one thing that you missed the most of after being out? Did you miss anything? Or I know you didn't miss those phone calls. I know I already got told by another sergeant major. He told me, man, he said he used to lose it when that phone rang, and his family would already know. So he said that phone rang, they already knew the weekend was over. I was like, oh, damn, man. I never made it that far, but I can only imagine, man. I guess you could talk. That's why you're laughing, but I don't know.
Well, I'm laughing about the phone call because, okay, my name's on the sign, so it's my soldier, but there's some layers between me and that soldier, right?
Yeah, at that point, yeah.
Phone rings. Okay, but guess what? Thank you. And then they're on speed dial, you know. Yeah, you know what to do. And then hit me back up, let me know what the outcome is or whatever. But yeah, so yeah, I'm so busy laughing at that. I forgot.
It's probably worse if you're a first sergeant, right? Because you probably, you know, you're sergeant major, you just hand it off to the first sergeant, you're good to go. Right. But if you're a first sergeant, then you're gonna have to call the platoon sergeant, but you're already there. So
right. Now I forgot your question. I'm sorry.
I don't even remember what it was either, man. I don't know. It's probably something about phone calls, but no, I was asking you, what'd you miss about the military after you got out? Like, what was something looking back on your time in? What'd you miss?
You know what? It's really nothing. you miss the. If there's anything, it's a group of people working toward this common goal. A few of the people, but guess what? You pick up the telephone, you call them. I don't even put on a uniform, and they have on a uniform, and we'd be in the middle of the thick stuff just to, you know, miss. You know what I mean? I don't need that.
Yeah, we don't need any of that. We need a beach. We need a beach, man. You need the San Diego Zoo or something like that.
Right.
You know.
So I say when you're exiting the military and it's on your terms, you need to be ready for that. And if you're not ready for it, then maybe you shouldn't be exiting. So I mean, I was ready. It wasn't like, I'm tired of stuff. It wasn't like that at all. It was just a time. It's going to happen at some point in time. That was mine. But I never looked back and said, I wish I. Never said, I wish I could have stayed. I was getting out. No one said I had to get out. And I wasn't disappointed about getting out. I wanted to go do something. I wanted to pursue that. So, no, there was nothing that I missed. And when I visited my friends that were still in, I tell them, you got 5 minutes to tell me about what's going on in your unit and all that type of stuff. I don't want 5 minutes of it. That's it. And then after that, I'm playing Army, and I don't need to play Army. That's you. It's your turn. It ain't my turn. I'm done. Or your turn is still going. However you want to look at it. I'll give you 5 minutes to bring them up to date. Oh, cool. That's it. Now let me tell you. We can talk about something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, just enough for me to keep abreast of what's happening in the military as a whole. But that was all I needed. 5 minutes. Take more than 5 minutes, then you think I'm in and I'm not in. So I would have to say, nothing. Nothing.
Yeah, no, it's good.
I missed. Yeah. Like I said, if it's anything but the people, you pick telephone, call the people.
Right.
And in Hollywood, believe it or not, it's so parallel to the military. And that, have all these different lanes. Let's look at those as individual MOSs and subordinate units that are working over here, and this one over here, and this over here, and this over here. In the industry, that maybe lighting, it may be props, it may be art, it may be wardrobe, it may be makeup, it may be grips, all these different things that are they're working toward this one, doing their part for the one common goal of that shoot on that day, which in the end is something that you're going to see on your computer or the big screen or your television or whatever. But each and
Right.
every day that's on set, they're all working toward that in their little groups or teams of something called grips or something called production assistants or something called, whatever it's called. So that is like the military, but but you have your lane, in that. So as a military technical advisor, I have my lane. My job is to look out for all things military, and advise the director in production, on those things of what they're trying to shoot as relates to the script, and all those things. So anything outside of that was in my lane. So you don't jump over in something else. And that was probably the hardest thing for me because of the military and in my positions, you are acutely aware of how things are supposed to be in relationship to attention to detail. So I'm watching everything. Now, best part about that is you get to learn how all these other components work. So if you decide to do a production, you're teaching yourself to kind of know what to do. But where I would see something wrong because of attention to detail, and continuity, that's important because you shoot, then you cut, and then you pick up, or you may go to the next scene, or you may pick up and shoot again, or whatever. Well, if you pick up and shoot again, everything needs to be the same. You're picking up where you left off. So that was big, but because of me being acutely aware, and focused on attention to detail, I would see certain things, and I may tell whomever in that department or whatever that wasn't like that. I remember I was on set one time, and so a couple of things on the same shoot. They shot, and the actor, he's supposed to wear glasses. Probably had glasses like these, but he didn't physically wear glasses. He didn't need prescription glasses, but the part was he was a computer geek, so they had these geeky glasses on. So they shoot, right, and they cut. They say, okay, we're going to come back, we're going to do it again. But in between scenes, because he didn't wear glasses, he just put them up here. So they go shoot again. And as the military technical advisor, I'm right by the director. So they have these monitors up there, at least two, sometimes three, and they're sitting in director's chairs or whatever. And I just stand there and I'm watching the monitors because what's on that monitor is what's going to end up on the screen one day. One of those shots, you may shoot it 2 or 3 times, it's going to end up on there. So I'm watching that. So I'm looking to shoot, they cut. So I asked the director, again, not my lane, let's say a geek. I forget what the guy's name was.
Oh no, I'm geeky Billy,
No,
whatever.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't think of what his character name was. It was 10, 15 years ago. But I said, was his glasses supposed to be on his face or on his head? The director says on his face. I said, well, they were on his head. But even as a director, they're trying to watch for everything. They're listening to dialogue,
Yeah.
how actors portraying the role, you know what I mean? All that stuff. But again, I'm acutely aware of attention to detail. So then I tell them, well, they were on his head. If you want it like that, or if that was the best take and his glasses are like this, do you still keep it? There's nothing to say the character couldn't have put him up there for a few moments. That's possible,
Right.
but not a decision, right? So that's one. Another instance was, and I'll get off this. Another instance was it was a stunt person. So the stunt person had done something, and then the actor jumps in the next scene, right? So they're trying to, again, continuity, match everything. So the actor's wearing the same thing, the stunt person wearing the same thing. So they're looking at the scene. I don't think it was a photo. And someone had taken a photo when the stunt person was flipped or something like that. It was this black thing. So they were trying to figure out what this black thing was and put it on the actor. I was like, that black thing is not, the stunt person wasn't wearing that. Well, okay, you see it in the picture, but that's their pad underneath the shirt. So when they flip the shirt moving, you can see a little bit of the pad. I said, it's the pad. They were trying to get some freaking belt and put. They didn't have a belt on, but they have photos, right? And I'm trying to tell them, no, it's the belt. And I said, it's not the belt, it's the pad. I said, go back, get all your photos. Got all your photos. Oh, you're right. But that wasn't my lane.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, from our perspective, it's all about the team,
right,
making this thing as successful as possible to reach our goal, right?
right.
So if no matter what level down there, I don't care if you see it wrong, you fix it or you tell somebody.
That's like everyone's a safety at the range, right? Like everyone's if you see something wrong, say something. You're not doing it because you want to say something. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, great example. So, but they are lane driven. So,
okay,
but again, that attention to detail thing. And then here's one last one that was pretty important. So we're shooting and it's a helicopter, so they don't let the actors fly. Stunt people fly in a helicopter, right? Helicopter lands, stunt people jump off, helicopter's on the ground, and then we pick up from there and we put the actors into the helicopter, right? And the plane just made, they'll turn the thing on or whatever, if they make a move to seem like it just set down, you know what I mean? That little thing right there.
Yeah.
Helicopter down. Then we'll leave the ground, but you whip it up enough and turn it off, it kind of settles, right? So, you're getting set for the actors to get in and then get out of the helicopter. There's some dialogue there before they get out. And I tell them, because they have these rucksack on and they're going to get out. So I'm telling the actor that when they get out, you have to duck a little bit in order to get out. Because if you stand straight up, that rucksack's going to catch the top and you're going to fall on your face.
Right? Yeah.
And then I'm telling them where they're going to sit based on where their character was before, or where the stunt person was in there and got out. That's where they're going to, sit, where their character sits on the bird. So the director, this is his first feature. He had done commercials. He says, so Bart, British, so Bart, let me, you do the military stuff. I'll communicate with the actors. Okay. So when I was trying to tell him where to sit and all that type of stuff, the director of photography heard me and he's shooting. So the director asks the director of photography, how he sees this or something like that. And the DOP answers or whatever. So then it says, oh, so like Bart said. And I'm like, Jason, this is not a competition. I'm here to advise. You can take it or you can leave it. So it's not to try to one up you or anything like that. It's like, okay, I'm advising. I have to do that, but it's not a competition of what I get right and you get wrong or vice versa. Then he didn't say nothing to me for the rest of the time. That was like day one or something like that. He didn't say nothing else the rest of the shoot for fear of not being right or something. I don't know. It was weird. And that's the same guy who was sitting just watching the screen with the guy like this, like what are you doing? Yeah. So, but that's kind of how it goes in that. And last one.
No, go ahead, man.
Working with Robert Redford. And so what I learned and as a technical advisor, I bring the REAL to their REEL. Both are real.
There you go. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
So, however, I back up REAL and millions of dollars back up REEL. So a lot of times the REEL will win. It's the director knows what they want and all those types of things. My job is to advise, but I'm going to advise you on REAL. You want authenticity, that's what I'm going to bring as it relates to your thing. Now, if your product just has a whole bunch of fake stuff and you want all that stuff, I can advise you what the military would do with that, and you take it and make it Hollywood, or you make it, as unrealistic as you want to. It's my job to say, I take this job or I don't take this job. Based on your script and all that type of stuff. So yeah, that's the way it works. But I'm in dialogue with Robert Redford where he says, he asked me a question about something. And I began to answer the question that's in between shoots, and they're moving, they're moving stuff around and changing the whole set and everything. And everybody stops because when the director's talking, then you don't move, right? So if you're in the area, you don't move, so we can hear. Um, so I'm explaining to him something that he asked me, and like people just frozen. And I'm telling him, and I'm kind of laughing on the inside at the fact that I'm talking to Robert Redford, explaining something to him about this military thing, and everyone else is just freezing. They froze. They're holding stuff and just waiting to move. Until I finish talking, and he gets his answer before they move. I'm just kind of laughing on the inside because I see them all just stop there. It's pretty funny.
I mean,
But he
almost like when
wants
everyone, hey, it's almost like when everyone's standing in the hallway and said, "Make a hole and stand parade rest" when you're a sergeant major, man.
it.
So it's kind of like, everyone waiting like they're like holding off for you, man. You know,
At the end of the day, what is that position? The senior enlisted advisor, right?
advisor, yeah,
Same. So people thought it'd be odd to, have that role out there. Well, I mean, okay, the director is the general, the commander. What's the difference? It's the same thing. I'm giving you advice.
right.
I'll take it. Yeah. Only difference is with the commander, I can come back later and say, I told you so.
Yeah, and you'd be good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, would do you want to talk on your time with IVMF, and then also would you like to talk anything about the Equestrian Center with the horses, and anything
Oh,
that
okay. Yeah.
the stuff that you're doing like outside of the acting that you sort of got a grip on? You want to touch on any of that stuff?
Yeah, well, I'm still in that entertainment space world, doing some things. So to me, it's like I'm sure some people would disagree, but like riding a bike and in your bit or anything that you've been bitten by that you like to do. Once you begin to explore and do things as a creative, man, it's really hard to let go. So it started with the acting military technical advising that led to writing a book, which led to writing a screenplay. So I adapted the book into a screenplay and trying to get that movie made, and still doing other stuff in the industry. So you just don't let it go. um, so that's that part. It's based IVMF, a great organization to work for. You pick your lane in there in terms of which department you work for. Mine's in older opportunity. Um, but what I like is what the program is and what it gives to people transition out of military, veterans, guard, reserve, and military spouses, that professional certification. So again, going back to transition, and making them aware that this exists. If I were still in and people in my unit were getting out, I'd do all I could to get them in the owner opportunity. Like get one certification, any rank,
Yeah,
any rank, all of them, especially E5 and below. If they're getting out after 3 years, especially them, they need something more than those where corporate America says those sought after skills that they say they want,
yeah,
um, and that piece of paper. That piece of paper is just a resume. So they have the hardest time trying to articulate those things on that resume in an interview. There's plenty of assistance to help them get those things on a piece of paper. But again, it has to be related to a specific job. And that's still a hard process. Everyone's still working their way through that from E4 to O10. So okay, O10's probably got some things set up where they're not the picture resume, but you know what I mean. Excuse me. So it's still um, it's still a work in progress, if you will, on doing all that. Um, but what corporate America does understand, excuse me, is professional certification. So things like Six Sigma Green Belt or Certified Associate in Project Management. So we are always in the military working on projects and doing kind of multiple things. So those things align almost no matter what you're doing. You're working on multiple things, and something like a Six Sigma Green Belt in the project management space will is something that's going to resonate with the corporate world when you're trying to get into that. Now there's different levels of things that O2O offers, but just that minimum of thing, that an APHR, which is a social and professional resources, if you work in that space, you need to have one of those if you don't qualify from a prerequisite standpoint of the things that are required for the professional resources. So that APHR one and Six Sigma Green Belt. I mean, everybody. Now you may qualify for some other things that are a little bit higher on the totem pole, if you will. And if you do, then you should go after those. But for them not to do it at all is they're not helping themselves. They're not helping themselves.
No, you're right.
So,
yeah.
And I think if I were in, then I'd push all my people there. Go see what it's about at least, and come back. What are you doing? Just like what I asked my soldiers when I was in. Okay, what are you gonna do when you get out? Of course, their immediate answer was, "I'm gonna go to school." Oh, let me see your letter of acceptance. They didn't have that. The quick answer to get me off their back, they thought, was, "I'm going to school." You're not going to school.
Yeah.
Shit, you don't know what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
You have no plan, and I'm trying to get you to have a plan. Knucklehead.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So don't try to just give me a quick answer think I'm going to go away, because that ain't going to work. So
that's good though, man. A lot of people don't even ask that anymore. Never mind, when you were doing it to try to, you weren't ever trying to like do it because you just try to make sure that someone's good. If you were a good leader, you always try to take care of your people, right? Whether you're in the Army or not. Even if you're working at Publix or something like that, hey, whatever. If you have that leadership in you, you're always going to ask your people that. So that's good that you asked, because I used to ask people too, even when I was contracting as a civilian, like, what you going to do when you get out, or like, oh, I don't know, maybe go to school or like that. Nah, man, it's going to come upon you. I'm not doing it because like I don't want to see someone have to go through the same things I went through, or anyone else that went. No one should have to go through that, but it's up to us to devise the plan, like you said, and like you said, at least get school lined up. That way, you're going to get your GI Bill or voc rehab or something like that when you get out. It might be better than taking $12 or $13 or $15 for an hour for a job on something that you might not like anyways. But yeah,
I would tell them now, they say they're going to school, use a GI Bill, all that type of stuff. Okay, I got it. What are you going to go to school for, and how are you going to leverage it?
Right.
So still, there's a huge population that get out of the military that thinks school if you don't have it. So I'm not against traditional education at all. I have mine. I think everyone needs to have that piece of paper. But I think, 75% is just that piece of paper. Here's my diploma. Okay, now what? Your diploma impact, and now you're going to go do what? Okay, this says you have one. In corporate America, they're like, well, we're going to put that on the job description. We want you to have a degree. Not because you need it in this job, because we want to tout that a certain percentage of our employees are college educated. That's all. There's very little jobs where that degree in that job description is related to that job. It just say bachelor's degree or master's degree. Okay, and what? It don't really matter what. Just gotta have one. For what?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because it sounds good, it looks good. What else? So when people come out with it, I gave them my degree. Okay, to go do what? So that's another thing where those professional certifications, arguably, are going to reap more rewards than getting that first job, if you will, in multiple roles that may pay more of having that certification versus the piece of paper called diploma. And a lot of people figuring out now to get into the program. Well, I can't get a job. I got a master's. I got this. Blah, 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 blah. And every time I read about something, whatever, it says I need a certification. Duh. Yeah, we know that. So now both of them working in tandem is powerful, but one of them by itself, if there's one to have, then it's professional certification versus the diploma. So get in the role, get in the job, get your money. You can always go back to school. You can use that GI Bill, and you can go at night. You get classes in there until you get it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's what I would advise as well. I'm not saying not to get it, again, working in tandem, they are powerful, but certain jobs, it benefits them to have that certification first. And that's just me talking. You bring someone else
Yeah,
on, if someone else is in another panel, they may say something completely different. But
absolutely.
what does the employer say? The employer
There
is
you go.
saying certification.
Can you do that? Can you do onward opportunity when you're out as a veteran, or do you
Yeah.
have to be still in
Yeah.
service still?
No. So people transition out of the military within 180 days. So you can't be. So we talked about that planning ahead or whatever. You can
Right.
at least put on your radar that you're going to attend once you're 6 months out from getting out, because it's privately funded, right? So the funders don't want to fund something, send people to a program and they stay in the military. They want to
Right.
manage it out here. And so you have to be within 6 months of separation. That's one category. The other one is veterans, period. As long as you have armor discharge, guard and reserve, and military spouses. Once military spouse, always military spouse. So if you're feuding with your ex and you can't get their DD 214, then you're SOL.
Yeah.
If you're cool when you can get their DD 214, you have to have that to enroll.
Okay. So it's what would someone have to do to just go ahead and go to IVMF and then pretty much follow the prompt to go ahead? Same, because I did EBV, but I mean, I'd probably be interested in doing it for myself, maybe even doing the PMP. I mean, I was going to do it with my old job firm, but you have to stay with the firm. Most people want you to, if they're going to invest in you, they want you to stay. So I wasn't staying overseas for another 2 years, so I was good.
Yeah.
But okay, all right, cool. I mean, that's great, man. Send your email. I got the plug right here, man. Hey, hit Bart up, man. Get his book first, then hit Bart up on the PMP, man. Let's go. It's like a one-stop. It's like a one-stop shop. And if you need to get on, if you need to be, I've never even been to LA, man. But if someone says, "Hey, you got a nice face, you should be on TV," I might have to hit you up, man. I might have to hit you up, man.
Do you have a? I don't see it. Oh, it's a private chat. I can put it in there.
Yeah, go ahead. It's probably. I don't think anyone see it, but yeah, I'll copy it and I could paste it to the when I post it on YouTube or something. No problem. But no, that IVMF is great, man. That's awesome. I went to the Veteran Edge conference this year in Dallas. That was pretty good for entrepreneurs, and awesome programs, man, to be a part of. All right, well, hey Bart, you want to close this out with anything? What'd you think? You got anything else? I got a couple of rapid fire questions for you at the end, but I'll leave it up to you first.
I'll touch on the Armed Forces Question Center real quick. So AFIC for short, we provide equine therapy for veterans and military families. So
okay,
great program. We're always looking for funding for that. Another one is called Veterans Retreat Foundations. Veterans Retreats Foundation. Always looking for funding for that as well. We're in something with something called Veterans Treatment Court. We're facilitating retreats for those folks that are in that. So yeah, those are my passions as well. Continuing to assist veterans with things that they're going through. Yeah.
How long you been doing the horses for?
No, this is 3, so 2019, so 4 years, almost 4 years.
Out in California with you?
No, I'm actually in Pittsburgh.
Are you in Pittsburgh? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
That's where the horses are out too? You have all, is it all for local veterans, or do you take people from all over the United States?
Yeah, they can come from all over, but predominantly local, yes.
Okay, all right, yeah. I guess if you want to send the links, I can put all that stuff in the chat of the YouTube too. That way people can. Yeah, it's pretty nice. How'd you get into doing horses? Did you like that, like along the way for yourself, or something you just fell upon?
I've always ridden horses from a young age. I went to a camp, and the camp had an equestrian component, if you will.
Okay.
So I rode for like 2 weeks and then just fell in love with horses. So I've been riding for a long time. You and I was a commandant of the NCO Academy. So we have our own land, our own train land. So we have to compete with the rest of the division for that, for training, right?
Okay.
So on that land, obviously, when we're not doing training, is just there. So there was when I took over, there was an agreement with the local group that rode on that land on Saturdays. They had the dogs, and the dog chased the birds. They didn't shoot the birds, but that's what they did, right? That was the
Yeah.
sport. So the horses have to follow the dogs, right? So they'd already been doing that by virtue of an agreement with the last commandant. So when I took over, they came to me and said, "Hey, we're already doing this or whatever. Just want to know if we can keep doing it." Like, sure. I said, "Okay, you can come out and ride if you want to," is what they say. Now I'm sure they didn't think that I was going to say yes. Okay, I'll be there. So they would come like once a month, I think it was, to do that event. Well, it wasn't for 12 months, but I think it was monthly that they came throughout the year, and I would go out there and ride with them.
Not
Yes,
bad,
sir.
man. Not bad. I'm like, hey, not bad. Where was it at? Is that Fort Campbell?
Yeah, yeah. So I
What
don't
was it
know if they
outside of
still
Gate 10?
do it. Well, I don't know if they still do it, but like I said, the NCO Academy has its own training area,
Okay.
and they would ride in that training area. But it was an agreement set up, and these guys were. I think the guy running it was out of Hopkinsville, Kentucky.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it still goes on now. That was a long time ago.
Hey, Mike, man, you never know, man. That's something
Yeah.
good to not give up. All right. Well,
Yeah.
what about for you? What about the Veteran Retreat Foundation? What you got for
Yeah,
that?
so Veteran Tree Foundations. So that one we do. We have one coming up here. First week of August is going to be down in Clarksville.
Okay.
So it's for those the participants who will be coming out of that area for that. And we'll be doing that one. How often? I won't say monthly, but pretty much. There may be a couple of months that we won't be doing it, but down there, but pretty much every month. So looking forward to that. It's going to be our first one with them down there. But we're able to do that all over the country, or even the world for that matter. So as
What do you
long as
guys focus on with that?
great question. So my the executive director, she has all those answers, if you will, of everything that
Okay.
goes on. But there's meditation, there's campfires, and what we learned those campfires is that where people kind of tell those stories, like I told you about the things and components of the book. They won't just openly do that, but they'll do it, in that group setting, around a
Yeah.
campfire for some reason that brings out, that allows them to talk about the things that they wouldn't normally talk about. And that's really what the whole retreat is for them. It's a healing thing for them, you know, of what they're going through to assist with that um, through a spiritual retreat.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Sounds good. Thanks for. Hey, appreciate you guys doing that. It's nice.
Yeah.
I like to do something like that one day. Do a foundation, get everyone together, take them around, Florida or wherever, and just
Mhm.
just camaraderie, time spent,
Yeah.
healing, bonding. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was gonna say if you want to close it out with anything, my bad. I forgot we were gonna touch on those things. I'm in no rush, man. The floor is yours. If you
Okay.
want to, yeah, I was trying to rush you.
No, I appreciate what you're doing. I think what you're doing is great. Hopefully, your audience has a takeaway from each and every one of your guests. Um, More importantly, I would say what you demonstrate, in my opinion, is our ability of coming out of the military to do anything we want to do, anything we put our mind to it. So, had you, let's say, 6 months before you got out, would you have said that you're going to be doing this?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So my
Yeah.
point is, we can do, and that's that training. That's that thing that we're taught all kinds of different things that we can do a whole bunch of things, but it's hard to convince, a corporate American employer that we can. They think we can only do one thing, so we have to choose one thing in the beginning, get in the
Right.
door, and we'll see other opportunities, and gravitate toward those, might get permission to do them. So, but that was it wasn't. I didn't go to Hollywood to show people that I could do it, but that was part of it. That's part of the example that if I can do it, you can do it. That this is here for you. You just have to have the vision for it. And like you're demonstrating here today, you had the vision for something more than what you were trained in the military.
Absolutely. Appreciate you sharing that, and thanks for those words. Hey, is there a lot of veterans in Hollywood or not?
Yeah, it's grown a lot now. When I was first out there, I mean, I got attached to this veteran group, and that's what really got me into the door because they were working on a television show, and we were called special ability background. So background is extras, if you will, but the
Okay.
special ability was that you put us in a military scene or a police scene or whatever. We already know how to do this. We know how to give us the uniform, we put it on you. You got to come check it. Then you got to say how to do this. But tell us what the scene is. We'll react to that. The
Okay.
bad guys here, blah, 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 got it. That's it. Action. And there we go. No
That's a
one's
good
saying,
niche, though,
oh,
man.
turn
That's good
over here.
marketing.
We don't need all that. So they paid more. They paid more for that special ability because
Yeah.
you can buy it. You know what I mean? It was easier to buy than it was to train. Now,
So
after the union has a thing where you have to have, that some of your background has to be, they all can be special ability. So, I will work with groups and you just have regular background and you get the uniform, you put it on, and oh God, you got to do all these corrections. It's worse than basic training.
hey, I got
Because they don't
a
know nothing.
yeah, I got a question about that though, because whenever you watch like something with the military on there, there's always like one thing off. Are the movies and stuff like that not allowed to copy the uniform to the T? Because it always seems like it might like the flag might be going the other way, like or in Hollywood, do you guys supposed to get it as close as possible to the exact thing? You know what I mean? Like if you had ACUs on, like you know what I mean?
Yeah. So first and foremost, it depends on what it is. What is the project? Second is what I told you before, the REAL versus the REEL.
Yeah.
Um, Third, do they even have a technical advisor? Fourth,
Okay.
um, what does that technical advisor know? Because some of us say this is how it works. And so we have this military thing, whatever. Okay. Um, George, who's our prop guy, or George, who was our grip, he was in the military, so he can be the advisor. George, how do we do this? Well, how long was George in the military? How long ago was George in the military? That matters. They don't know. They just figure George can do it. He's in the military. Okay, that's one. That's one way of doing it. The other way, they pick a technical advisor, but they don't know anything. They may know behind the camera. They may know in front of the camera, but they don't know enough, and they don't know
Yeah.
how to vet. They don't know how to vet them. So you pick someone who doesn't know anything. Third, you pick someone who knows something, but you don't give them autonomy. So you don't listen to them.
Yeah.
And then fourth, you pick someone who knows something, that knows everything, and you give them autonomy, and then you have a great production. You're like, wow, they got it right. So that ladder is them getting it right. But it goes through all four of those phases. And I'd probably say the one other phase where they don't have a technical advisor. I watch enough movies, I know how to do it. I know what the uniform looks like. Hey, wardrobe, go get some pictures. Oh, yeah, just match that. Okay, go buy 100 of these uniforms and blah, 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 blah. Oh, see that? We'll put it on like that. And of course, you see some absolutely horrible end products by virtue of that, where they just looked at pictures. Or another thing they do is they'll bring a technical advisor on for the combat scene. Okay, it's a combat thing. Person suffered this thing, blah blah blah. Now they come back in the civilian world. Now you're showing that part. And what they'll do is because you have maybe one person in uniform that's versus this whole group of people in uniform, so they cut the technical advisor out. Like, well, we don't need you for this part, and they don't bring them in post production either, because you'll see it all in post production. But they don't bring them in that. They're trying to save money. So once you
Yeah.
put these little scenes over here where they're fighting and all that type of stuff, blah, blah, blah. But once they return from Iraq or Afghanistan and now they're in this setting at home, we don't need you for that. Okay. And then what you see, crap.
Yeah. That's I guess they're all over the place then.
50 Cent and Samuel Jackson was in it, where Samuel Jackson was, I think it was a doctor in a cache in Iraq. And these things go on, then they come back, and now they're in the civilian world. But they're still, these two characters are still in the military, and they're dealing with some other stuff. Berets were jacked up. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I
Like all
seen
sometimes stuff looks crazy, man.
I seen the French by the water, painting this portrait. Their daggone beret looked better than that. It was jacked up. But to
Oh
no
man.
fault of them, that means that there's no way you could have a technical advisor that didn't. Well, I guess you could. That didn't know how to wear a beret. I don't know.
There you go.
So
Okay, it matters about the. There you go. You answered it though. As all those
yeah,
scenarios,
it's
all
all those
those.
things. That's how it gets messed
Yeah,
up.
because some of them
But then
looks
you get something
crazy,
like
man. Oh
you get
man, like you
something
said,
like
it's the
Saving
attention to
Private.
detail.
Yeah, you get something like Saving Private Ryan or the Band of Brothers, and those types of things where you have a professional that's done it for a while, has autonomy, and all those types of things. It looks completely different.
Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thanks for answering that. That's funny, man. I've always
So
noticed stuff when watching stuff. You can see like,
yeah,
wow, that's not right there.
I want you to watch A Few Good Men. How many times have you seen that?
I feel like I've seen it a while, several times, but I'm probably gonna notice something I never noticed. Right at this when
Well,
you tell me.
I'm up to like over 25, like all the way through. I know the dialogue, almost all of it. So, but 2023, so 2009, I was watching it, again, and I finally found something wrong. And I wasn't looking for anything because I'm so enthralled in the story that uh, like my mind just wasn't even focused on everything else from a technical advisor standpoint. But I finally found something, and this happens, and this is why you have to have your technical advisor in post production. So when Jack Nicholson says he leaves the stand, he charges Tom Cruise and says, "I'm gonna rip off your head and shit down your neck," or something like that, or piss down your throat, something like that. I think he says piss down your, it's something like that, right? So he
Yeah.
charges, and he's restrained by the MPs as he charges them, and his hat, he comes at him and holding his hat or whatever. His hat falls, his tie and everything is straight when he does that, right? And
Yeah.
as he reaches for him, everything comes up like this, tie and everything. And when he finishes, they pull him away and he does this, everything falls
Yeah.
back in order, right? But
Yeah.
in the process of him trying to grab Tom Cruise's character, he drops his headgear. So fixes his uniform, ties on everything straight. He bends down to pick up his headgear, stands back up, tie is loose and off to the side.
Oh dang, man! You got it. You got it.
He reached for him. Everything was, it went up. Everything just went up, and then they pulled him away, and he pulled everything back down straight. Everything's perfect. He just bends down, picks back up. Tie is the collar is still buttoned, but the tie is unloosened down to here and off to the side.
Dang! How many times do you think you
Like,
watched it before you caught that?
well,
A lot.
10,
10.
10, 15, yeah. Like I said, I was so enthralled in the story. So you think, well, what happened? How'd they miss that? Well, I don't know how they missed it, but what happened was it definitely didn't come apart, bend it down and picking up his head here, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't it. A few things could have happened. One, they broke for lunch, or they broke. Or they said, okay, let's go back to one, shoot again, let's just do it from. But at some point, he decided he's okay. We're finished or whatever. I'm taking, this is coming off or whatever, right? And they shot it and didn't pay attention, and it made it in,
Yeah.
So yeah, and
I
then
wonder how
right
many.
after that, well, he walks away. I don't know if you can see. Because he walks away after that, and I don't know if you can really see that it's straight after, because he walks away and his back's to the camera. Yeah.
Good observation, man. No, I'm kind of like you sometimes. Like if you see something that's like I don't know, just like you said, it's just attention to detail. It's just like so you see something that's off, like hey, that kid got his basketball shorts on backward. I don't know, and people don't even realize it, but I think it's a good skill or trait or whatever you want to call it to have. But you ready for a rapid fire real quick? I got some questions for you. All right.
Yeah.
Favorite duty station?
Fort Campbell.
Favorite chow hall?
Ooh. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna well, here's the thing, favorite chow hall. So Fort Campbell, First Brigade, and why? Is what because not to halt you here, but
No, you're good.
When you're brigade sergeant major, then that's your mess hall, right? When you're battalion guy, you're not. And I saw where that thing started and where it got to by paying attention to it, paying attention to the cooks and their welfare and what they're going through, all that type of stuff, and making that environment the best that it can be for our overall soldiers. So when I became to get involved like that, and not that I didn't give a shit before,
yeah,
it's responsibility. So when I'm at battalion, it's not my responsibility. So I'm trying to do what I can.
absolutely.
But I'm hearing complaints from my battalion cooks who they're mine when we go to the field, but they're brigade every day. So I'm trying to make those adjustments based on the guy who runs the DFAC, who's brigade's asset and not mine, because I'd have fired him if he was mine. But his brigade's, and I couldn't. And then by the time I got to brigade, he was already gone. But just to fix it and make it a world-class facility with happy people in there and all that type of stuff is why I say that, because I was involved in that regularly.
Yeah, no, that's good. Hey, no, yeah, you can make or break it, man. Army cooks death. They get death from within. They say, man, that's what the slogan.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, man, come on, man. No, you gotta take care of them, man. Just like anybody else. That's it.
So even in Iraq, when it came time to leave, I got them out first. And they were like, "Oh, thank you for giving it." Well, it's not about that. It's about when I get on the ground and our people get on the ground, I want our shit straight. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
It ain't about you get to go home first and see whomever. It ain't that. My stuff better be straight when I get back. All my soldiers go in there and they want to be just like it was before we left. Go back, order, there's nothing in the freezer there from a year, get everything straight. And it did. So, and then the post had the Sergeant Major of the Army come visit, and guess where he ate? In the First Brigade. That was the only one that was ready. Yeah. But it's those types of things.
What was your favorite meal in the Army from a DFAC? Surf and turf, soul food? What you like? What was your favorite?
I mean, we've done well on all those, special occasions, but I would just say on a regular daily basis, you knew you could go to the DFAC and get a world-class breakfast of anything. My problem was I didn't eat there all the time because I'd be like 270, right? But man, the times that I could actually go for breakfast, I had pancakes, I had grits, I had omelet. I got every darn thing, man.
Yeah.
And it was good every single time.
There you go. Did it right then. Hey, what about favorite MRE?
I have to remember what those things are now. I mean, in terms of what's in them.
None of them then. That's a good answer. None.
No. There was some that was very good. And I want to get every time. I just can't think of what it is. I can't think of what it is.
People used to say, I had a lot of people tell me chili mac. I'm like, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Man, I had a group of three that were good. What was cool about the MRAs when we went to the field in the brigade talk, we'd have a rat, we call it a rat box. So rat box, what you didn't want to eat in your MRE, you're supposed to contribute to the rat box. Some people didn't like cheese. Some people like crackers. Some people like peanut butter. Some people like jelly. So if you get the MRE, so the one MREs that I liked had stuff, all those other components I like, either cheese or the peanut butter. And then if I wanted jelly, then I go to the rat box here. I wanted more cheese, go to the rat box. One more whatever, go to the rat box.
Yeah.
And then I got a super complete meal. Yeah.
Yeah, man. There you go, man. Hey, get yourself a rap box out there, y'all. If you're still in,
Yeah,
man. Get you share
yeah.
them MREs up, man. But now that's pretty much all I had. Maybe one more thing. What's one word to describe your military service? You got something that sort of sums it up for you?
Um, is it let me think of a better way to say this in a word. I would say care. I mean, I truly cared about um, my soldiers, not for fame and reward or for place or for rank, but that was my duty. A lot
Yeah.
of people, it's our duty, but what you're doing about it is something different. I would say to a person, they would tell you that. It wasn't like I woke up every day and said, I think I'm going to care. Oh, let's care. Let's just care. I'm saying the way I operated, um, they would tell you that. Just like I told you a story about those cooks. Everyone knew that I gave a shit about their welfare. It was incumbent upon me to know, so I'd have moles, I defended all the way down to E1, and so they would tell me what's going on, good, bad, right, or wrong. So I can't fix it if I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
I knew, then they knew that I was going to fix it because I can't get it from them and then just don't do anything with it. That ain't right. but they knew that. So, and I gave them the ability to. I would explain the why. This is why we're doing this. I didn't have to, because I said so. That's an answer, but um, but I wanted to explain the why. So you know why we were doing it. Didn't mean they had to agree with it. It means you have to do it, but now you know
Yeah.
why. And then they were all in because they knew the why. Oh, now I understand. I don't like it, but I understand. There we go. I got buy-in as opposed to resistance.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You gotta have people make them feel like they're a part of something, or exactly. They
Yeah.
have to have that why. We all have to have a why for
Yeah.
us, or like you said, we'll just be treading water, and you don't really know what to do. Like that's what I'm even telling my son. Find out what you love. Do what you love to do. That way, the money goes with it, but you're doing something that you love.
Yeah.
So.
Again,
Absolutely, man.
didn't need them to agree. What about that? Do you agree with me? No.
Yeah,
I don't care about you agreeing. I care about you knowing. And where I learned that from, when I tell you about those lessons, those leadership lessons that you put in your kit bag, good, bad,
yeah,
right, or wrong.
absolutely.
How I learned this. I was in the unit JSA in Korea, and my first sergeant, I was in one platoon. So you go up there and you kind of do a trial thing. So I was put in this one platoon where he told me I was going to be a squad leader in this platoon. And then at the end of that time period, he said, I'm moving you from that platoon over to this one right here. They need your leadership over here. Well, no, I said, what? He said, I'm moving. I was like, why? I'm going to tell you why first off. Okay. I was a squad leader, right? Okay, now we got that out of the way. I'm going to tell you first off. I'm going to tell you. Because he needed leadership over here. So he eventually told me the why. Again, he wouldn't try to get my buy-in or anything like that, but he eventually told me the why. And that was the lesson I taught, to explain the why. But he only explained the why because I asked him why. He didn't say, I'm moving to this platoon over here because where they are from leadership perspective, they need your leadership over there. He didn't say that in the beginning. He didn't say it until I said, why are you moving me? So
Right.
got offensive because I'm questioning his leadership.
Yeah.
But again, my takeaway was to explain the why.
So, yeah, no, it's good, man. I appreciate you sharing that. That's a great storyline and great
Mm.
reasoning behind it. You got anyone that you could call, we could challenge to come and share their story? Maybe impact the lives of others that that we maybe serve with, or that are still serving.
Who's still serving? Let me think about it. I'll send you a note. I'll think about it.
All right, no problem. Hey, well, I appreciate you, Bart, coming on here, giving me your time, and being so vulnerable, opening up, letting us know what it was like for you, and I appreciate your leadership and what you've done, for the soldiers that you served with, and you had leadership over. It's hard to find good leaders out there, and I'm glad that I ran into you, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you. Do you have anything else for anyone, or if not, we'll end it at that.
Okay, I just will end it by. I just want to thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate what you're doing and sharing all these stories, to include yours, with people that are veterans and people that are transitioning out of the military. Thank you for that.
All right, no problem. Hey guys, and we'll post the information about the IVMF, Onward to Opportunity, and also about the other things that we talked about today, the vacations, getaway, and the horse retreat out in Pennsylvania. So, if you guys are a veteran or in the military and you want to share your story, don't hesitate to, reach out, let us know, and we appreciate you guys' time today. Until next time, have a blessed one. We'll take care.